Good morning, Jeff. How was Surprise, Arizona?
It was wonderful. The birds were chirping. The baseball was played, and I found mountains. It was awesome.
You got some catching up to do on the tape.
I do. Why did you have to rub that in? You're like, hey, I got my top 100 we can talk about today. And I was like, man, I got like 120 players. So I don't have a top 100 because more than 20 of them I don't want.
But if you did, who would be your top player? Is it Myles Garrett? Is it pretty clear for you?
Well, I was going to go to your top 100 and just saying Myles Garrett at number one is a massive cop-out. You're just, man, that's such groupthink.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's one way to look at it. But
yeah, he's number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what he did at the Combine just basically made the Browns' decision at number one that much easier.
Well, he plays the most important position on defense, and he's built in a lab.
Yeah.
Like he's a prototype.
That's it.
What else would you want?
And seeing him up close at the Combine just those shoulders, his arms, you think he's going to grow even more into that body. He just turned 21 years old. It's a no-brainer. The draft starts at number 2, basically, is what we're saying.
What if they – well, it's Cleveland, though. What if they trade down and somebody likes a quarterback?
Unless someone blew them away with 3 first-round picks, that type of deal, it's not going to happen. The Browns, they have been trading down for several years now. You just can't trade away with good talent. And if they haven't learned that by now, then they never will. So it would be a massive, massive upset if the Browns do not stay at number 1 and do not take Garrett.
The number of picks that Cleveland has in the first 2 rounds, what's the total number for the first 2 rounds the next 2 years? It's like 8 picks.
Same number episode of our podcast, 427, something like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. And at some point,
but they could blow it. They've done it before.
Well, that's it.
They can blow it.
When
they can pick Gilbert and Johnny.
Right. I remember in the 2014 draft when they traded back and they picked up a first-round pick. In the process, it looked like, a great deal. They're moving back 5 spots, and they get an extra first-round pick. Well, okay, they drafted Justin Gilbert when they moved back, and they squandered away the draft pick. So the number of draft picks is great, and I think they've done a nice job accumulating those picks and putting them in position to pick up some contributors right away in such a strong draft. But again, you have to hit on those draft picks if you're going to maximize the moves that you made to this point.
And the Cody Kessler window. It's time to win now in the Cody Kessler window.
The Browns know they don't have a quarterback.
Oh.
They know. And
he's picked ahead of Dak, though.
Yeah.
You should give him a chance to shine. Yeah. He had a great completion percentage in college.
He did, and he might be proved to be a solid backup, but that might be the extent of Cody Kessler in the NFL. Now, I feel even more confused now about where these quarterbacks are going to go. And, first topic we can talk about today is just kind of free agency and how that's affected the first round. You look at the Bears at number 3, possible destination for a quarterback. They give Mike Glennon all types of money. And then you look at the Bills. They're keeping Tyrod Taylor. We'll have to see where Jay Cutler lands. Brock Osweiler's out in Houston. So I think the quarterback mix kind of changed a little bit with how we think the first round could end up.
Okay, so where do they go? One of them go at number 2?
I just did my updated mock draft. That'll be out early this week. I don't think the 49ers pull the trigger at 2 unless they fall in love with one of these guys. Those guys are in there for the long haul, Shanahan and Lynch. I still think there's an outside possibility that Kirk Cousins is in the mix. And if not this year, then definitely next year. That's a strong possibility. So I think they're okay with a combination of Brian Hoyer.
All of the quarterbacks are going to go undrafted.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
I think when you look at 6 with the Jets, that's a possibility, although not likely. They just drafted Hackenberg in the 2nd round. None of these quarterbacks are going to come in. But none of these quarterbacks are going to come in right away and, be the answer. So I think the first possibility you have to look at it might be number 12 with Cleveland. And if you're Cleveland, that's an ideal scenario. You get your pass rusher at 1, and then you have your choice of whatever quarterback you want at number 12. And if it is Trubisky, like I think would be the smart play. I think he's the top quarterback this year. I think he'd make a lot of sense. Northeast Ohio guy. I think that's an ideal scenario for Cleveland. You get your pass rusher, get your quarterback. I think they'd still love to get Jimmy Garoppolo, but it doesn't look like any chance of New England parting ways with him. So
I wouldn't want Jimmy Garoppolo if the Patriots are willing to trade him. Right? Like if they're willing to trade him, they're it is tough because you're about to have to pay him no matter what. If Brady's going to play 3 or 4 years, then sure, you trade him.
But that's the big if.
If Belichick calls me and is like, hey, I got this guy, I'm willing to trade him.
Hang up.
Yes. I'm like, you can go away.
Yeah.
You can go pillage and plunder somebody else's team. It ain't going to be me.
But you're right. This is a little unique because Garoppolo's entering the last year of his contract. You have a Hall of Fame quarterback who's still playing an MVP-worthy caliber play. But again, he's 40 years old. Realistically, how many more years does he have? Could this be a Joe Montana, Steve Young situation when the 49ers, when, they parted ways with Joe Montana, because they knew they had to get Steve Young on the field, and that worked out okay, got him a Super Bowl. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but I would be surprised if Garoppolo is anywhere but New England when we start next season. But when you look past, Cleveland at 12, Arizona at 13, I think that is a perfect landing spot for one of these quarterbacks. Carson Palmer has got 1 year left. They need to plan for the future. Deshaun Kaiser would be a great fit. Deshaun Watson, I think those two quarterbacks make a lot of sense. And then after that, Houston at 25, who's going to be their starter? Are they going to bring Jay Cutler in for a year? Tom Savage he's an okay quarterback, but I don't think he's truly the answer. Deshaun Watson, what about Pat Mahomes? That would make some sense. Same thing with Kansas City at 27. Another situation where you have the starting quarterback now, but you're planning for the future. John Dorsey, the general manager, he was in Green Bay when they waited at the end of the first round and Aaron Rodgers fell to them, and they thought, hey, we have Brett Favre, but let's plan for the future. Could be a similar situation in Kansas City. Alex Smith is the now. A guy like Pat Mahomes, Deshaun Watson could be the future.
So we never talked about the offensive players at the Combine, but it is a week later. Is that too dated? Should we do your top 100, or is there anything from the offensive Combine that jumped out at you?
Well, we do need to touch on it, and especially these running backs.
You mean these terrible, terrible athletes?
Yeah, it's, again, when you watch, or when the Combine, you want the numbers to match the tape.
Right.
And you can't watch Dalvin Cook or Leonard Fournette and tell me that they're not explosive. But the numbers don't say that they are.
Right.
With Leonard Fournette coming at 28.5-inch vert, I think Dalvin was, 30.5 or 30. So he was not far off. And listen, you don't need a great time in this drill. I mean, Zeke had, 32.5 last year. So not a huge red flag.
My running back isn't supposed to be jumping.
Well, but it's lower body explosion.
Right.
And when you're thinking
I've watched Dalvin Cook run.
Yeah.
He's explosive.
And when you're thinking about taking a guy in the top 15,
right,
ideally you want the numbers to match. And so at some point you just have to look at it and say, listen, this guy is in the 9th percentile in the SPARQ. He doesn't match up athletically with any first-round running back that we've seen. Do we ignore those numbers and the odds and say we trust the tape? That's where I'm leaning.
Well, what's the name of the podcast?
Exactly, and that's why Dalvin Cook is still in my top 10 on my draft board. But it does give you a little bit of pause and makes you think, okay, what are we missing here? Is there something that – and when you do watch the tape, Dalvin Cook's not that, start, stop, cut, go type of guy. He's more of a stretch runner where he's just going to weave through the defense with his vision, his quickness, and he does have explosion. It just didn't show up in the numbers.
Well, I think the guy that it helped the most is, I think my belief is going to become more popular with people because, and maybe his numbers wouldn't have been as good at the Combine, but Joe Mixon at Pro Day puts up good numbers. Yeah. And to me, he was my best runner anyway. Mm-hmm. And now I have him as, and again, this is the tape. You can send me angry tweets if you want. That's fine. Joe Mixon, to me, is one of the top 5 players. I said yesterday I think he's the second best player in this draft. But then you run into the problem of running back value plus whatever else you have to factor in with Joe Mixon.
Right.
So I saw where you had him in the top 100, but is there any part of you that after looking at it, and I'll make the case for him, he's got, 15 pounds on Dalvin Cook?
Yeah,
15 pounds? So he's got a better build. He actually measured better. And other than that, you want a great runner, you want a great receiver, you want a guy you can flex out. They can both do it. What would put him behind Dalvin Cook?
It's a good question. And going to Norman for the Pro Day, and physically, he's very impressive. His lower body, his legs,
He's a running back. He's like Myles Garrett is a defensive end built in a lab.
Right, exactly.
Joe Mixon is a running back built in a lab.
That's
6'1",
exactly
228.
They were born to play that position with the way they were built, and he's even bigger than I think ideally you'd like a running back, or taller at least. But he uses it to his advantage at times, especially as a receiver. He's such a big target, and he's so fluid. And watching him go through the positional drills at the pro day, first of all, Samaje Perine was outstanding as a blocker,
which is weird because on tape I didn't think he was.
Yeah, he really impressed over Mixon in that area. But when it came to receiving, good God, I mean, Mixon is he makes it look so easy out there because it's flawless for him. It's second nature for him to catch in stride and go. Doesn't slow down, and he's so explosive out of the backfield. I think Joe Mixon, he only helped himself at the pro day. I think the numbers are what we expected. I don't think they were necessarily something that's going to massively change your opinion of him.
All they had to be was okay to be better than the running backs.
Well, and his first 40-yard dash goes out, and it was a mid 4.4s, and his agents, okay, we're good.
That'll work. That'll work. Stop.
So, Joe, I don't need to run a second 40. That's it. But, the jumping numbers were okay. I had a 35-inch in the vert. The broad was okay. 3-cone was right around 7 seconds, just below. So, a good time for him. So, overall, Joe Mixon, he is what we think he is in terms of on the field. You just have to weigh the off-field, the baggage, the potential PR disaster that could be for your team. How does that fit in your locker room? All the above. I did think it was interesting
Say it. He's the best running back. Say it.
I would not disagree with you. I mean, I can't. I guess I haven't had to put too much thought into that at this point because he's not going to be my top running back just because of the off-field. So I haven't had to really consider, is he the best running back? But he's right there with Dalvin Cook if you're going to just rank the top running backs. And Leonard Fournette's not far off, but I think he's the clear-cut number 3 for me if we're just talking about on-the-field talent.
So Christian McCaffrey, how does he stack up? Because you talk about the combine, he destroyed the combine.
Yeah.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
And you hear people talk about. I've seen people say, "Well, yeah, he had a great 3-cone time because he's technically perfect at it. Like he studied it so hard."
So smart.
Listen, you didn't run a 6.5 because you're smart and work hard. You ran a 6.5 in the 3-cone because you can change direction whenever you want, and you can accelerate from 0 to 100 immediately. To me, his numbers they were really impressive. But really, they just matched. Like, it's just him. That's what he does.
He's a terrific athlete. And if you don't think he's a terrific athlete, I don't know what you're watching. And that's why I could care less if you play in the bowl game or not. I think at this point, you know what Christian McCaffrey is. And I don't know. Maybe I like him too much. I'd consider him in the top 20 picks just because he's a different breed of running back. He's a featured running back, but you have to kind of tweak your opinion of or your definition of what featured running back means because you're going to put him in the slot. You're going to motion him out of the backfield. He's going to be a chess piece for that offense. You're going to keep defensive guessing with what you're going to do, how you're going to use him. He's basically what James White was for the Patriots in the Super Bowl, except he's a much better athlete. And he's more multi-dimensional with what he can do. For a team that wants to utilize that type of threat, he's definitely a first-round pick. It's just kind of a question of how high does he go.
Any other offense at the combine things that we got to get to?
I
saw people were mad Deshaun Watson didn't throw the ball fast enough, miles per hour. Is that a real thing?
I posted. Those are always interesting. The mile per hour numbers from the combine, just the guys on the radar gun, and the way they do it is on some of these out route throws. So it's not like just stand in front of a mat and see how hard you can throw it. It's measured during the drills when you're throwing these out routes and the in cuts and different routes. So it is something to note that his number was 49 miles an hour, which, just using historical context, there hasn't been a quarterback you'd point to and say, this guy went on to be a productive starter and it was under about 53, 54 miles per hour. That doesn't mean he can't.
Don't we have to be fair and say that most good quarterbacks in the league didn't throw at the combine?
That is fair. I wouldn't say most, but I'd say a good
lot.
chunk. Yeah, guys like Bridgewater, especially in that 2014 class. But plenty of quarterbacks have gone and thrown, Cam Newton and, those types of guys. So it is something that skews the metrics and how you view it. But, again, it is something to note that he doesn't have a cannon. And I think on tape, he shows good enough arm strength.
Right.
Doesn't show that elite arm strength, but it shows good enough. And so this is another one of those situations where I think you just trust the tape. And I'm not worried about his arm strength, but it is something to note what the numbers bear out.
Okay, let's talk about your top 100, because you said that 50 wasn't enough anymore. You wanted to put out a top 50, but it was like, no, I'm leaving off too many awesome players.
Well, I mean, I could do top 300 right now, but I don't have the time and energy to, I have scouting reports to work on, so I'm not going to have to put the time to do that. What I do is before once the juniors declare, I do my first top 50.
Right.
So in January, that came out. And then after the combine, I'll do my second top 50. And so I sat down last week to do it, and I'm mapping it out.
He said no.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
It's not enough.
This guy, I gotta fit this guy in. Well,
right.
Then, okay, but who am I going to leave out? No, this guy has to. There's just no chance. And this draft is so deep on day 2 that I hated leaving guys like Duke Riley off or, Pat Mahomes. These guys.
Well, you couldn't leave Duke Riley off if you were doing a top 50 because that just would be wrong.
Well, he did end up,
you
I
would
think,
be
40,
lying.
42, 43,
darn right he ended
something
up
in there.
the top 50.
So I mean, I hated to leave these guys off, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to expand it to top 100, and took a couple hours over the weekend to make sure I had it where I wanted. I don't think there are any big surprises, especially if you paid attention to my first top 50. There aren't any big surprises from that first top 50. The top 5 haven't changed.
I could throw out a couple of, maybe they're not surprises, but I think they're worth noting just when you talk about the NFL draft because, when you talk positional value and where guys are going to get picked, like you are doing it value backwards if you're doing, say, I don't know, what the Cowboys do in the first round. When you're taking interior offensive linemen and running backs and safeties, from the standpoint of how much they get paid in the NFL when they get paid again, you're doing it exactly backwards if that's what you're swinging on in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
But in the Cowboys' case, they're hitting home runs, but they're also I guess you would say playing it safe. Maybe those are easier to evaluate. Maybe that's why they're not paid as much. Plus, their role isn't as important, whatever. But this draft is unique because 3 of the top 6 players are in the secondary, and 2 of them are safeties, which people would say is the less valuable position. But I agree with you. Like you have Malik Hooker at 3 and Jamal Adams at 4. I would have them both close to those spots. Their orders flipped, but whatever. And they're safeties.
Right.
It's like, okay, can you take one that high? And you can do whatever you want. You take the best player that's going to help your football team. But from a value standpoint, I think it's at least worth noting. It's like, wow, 2 of the top 4 players, safeties. Will they go that high? And
I think people point to, just history and, we just haven't seen many top 5 safeties. Sean Taylor, Eric Berry, those types of guys, special players. But I mean, wouldn't you argue that the safety position's more important now than it ever has been? Especially versatile guys that can play in the box, can play deep.
As long as they're versatile.
Right. It could maybe line them up in the nickel. That's
why I love Jamal Adams. I'll put him in the slot.
He might not be like elite at anything,
right?
But he's pretty good. I mean, across the board, he's a good athlete. He can hit you. He really has the range to play all over the field. Malik Hooker isn't as reliable as a downhill run defender, but what he can do in the back half of the field with that range and those ball skills is just unreal. So I don't know. To me, the safety position is a position that can potentially change your defense. If you get an impact player at the back half of your defense, just kind of like a pass rusher, an impact pass rusher, it impacts everyone else. It helps everyone else out. So I'm okay with having those safeties high. I would not hesitate to take a safety in the top 3 to 5 picks. Now, would teams feel differently? Sure. Definitely. I think that's possible, especially when I think it's easier to find the safety position later on. I think there's more day 3 safeties in the NFL than there are day 3 players at other positions, specifically, pass rusher and some impact positions. But that doesn't mean that it's going to stop me from drafting one of these guys early. So for me, they're both top 5 on my board.
You have Solomon Thomas at number 5. I have him at number 105. You got Dalvin Cook, your first runner, at number 7. Reuben Foster, the linebacker, at 8, who you're not punishing him for trying to fight.
The way he punished a hospital worker.
A dude nurse or whatever.
We know he's violent on the field, and what happened at the Combine, it does create a little bit of pause for teams. You have to kind of go back and make sure that there aren't anger management issues there, that he can flip the switch when off the field and the violence doesn't carry over. Once he gets out of that Tuscaloosa bubble, what's going to be going on there? I think there's something to be said about the medicals and how strenuous a process that is at the combine, and how that could just, I was told that he hadn't had his pain meds that day, and that factored in.
Oh, we got an opioid addict.
Well, no, he just had shoulder surgery. He wasn't going to work out at the combine, rotator cuff, so he hadn't had his pain pills that day. That factored in. But I was told there was a physical altercation. It wasn't just verbal. There was a physical altercation.
Who do you think won?
I'm guessing the guy that smacked Deshaun Watson around the national title game. Right. So it was to the point where people in the room felt threatened. I mean, they were scared, and so that because of those reasons, that's why he was sent home. That and it better be pretty serious for you to be sent home from the combine. It sounds like it was. So. Teams need to do some more background just to make sure there isn't a pattern here. That's not something that you have to worry about in your locker room, anything like that. But for now, I'm going to keep him at 8 until I hear differently.
Your first quarterback comes in at number 10, Mitch Trubisky from North Carolina. 11 is interesting in that I just wonder how high everybody would have him, because we talked about versatility in the secondary. Hassan Reddick from Temple, who is now, I guess, a linebacker, but at Temple, he was more of a defensive end at 230 pounds.
Right.
He was just an edge rusher. It's interesting to see how high he can go, because it is a little bit of a projection. You were at the Senior Bowl and watched him stand up and cover and rush from there, and he looked good doing it.
Looked great.
Great at the combine.
Right.
Great rushing the quarterback on tape. Everything that you've put in front of him, he's been really, really good at, but you're projecting him kind of to a new position.
Right, and it is tougher when you're doing that when you haven't seen him during live game reps, but to your point, seeing him at the Senior Bowl, going through practice, watching him cover backs and tight ends out of the backfield, he made it look easy with that athleticism. And is there going to be some sort of learning curve for him? Absolutely, of course. But when he's playing off the ball, that athleticism allows him to mask some of those deficiencies, some of that inexperience. I have him as my 11 best player, and I think he's going to end up going probably somewhere in that 10 to 16 range overall, somewhere in the teens. I think he reminds some people of Ryan Shazier, with a little more upside with what he can do as a blitzer.
Mike Williams and Corey Davis stop in holding hands at 12 and 13. He's
stacked.
Scared to put somebody between them?
Maybe.
You don't want to declare too strongly for one or the other? Is that what's happening?
Mike Williams is my top receiver.
Okay.
But Corey Davis is right there. I like them both. I think there's a good chance Corey Davis is the first receiver drafted, especially if Mike Williams goes to the Clemson Pro Day and runs high 4.5s, low 4.6s in the 40-yard dash. But I think they're both mid first-round wide receivers.
Derek Barnett at 14. And I'm considering having him as my second defensive end too, if only for the reason that every other one of them, after the combine or something medical, it's like, all right, every one of you guys that I want to put in front of Barnett because I don't love him has something wrong with you. And now I have to just put Barnett in there. And just in the notes, I have to put boring player, not as good as you think, lots of sacks. But it's like, I'm pretty comfortable with him.
Yeah, it's easy to appreciate who he is. I mean, he has a GPS for the quarterback. He might not have the elite length and burst and bend, but he can get to the quarterback, and he's very smart. He's not going to hurt you against the run. He's a steady NFL starter, and you can use guys like that in the mid-first-round.
O.J. Howard is your first tight end at 15, then Fournette, then David Njoku. How do you say Njoku? Njoku is at 17, the Miami tight end, then Christian McCaffrey, and here comes your love child, Forrest Lamp, at number 19. As a guard?
He's a guard.
Western Kentucky man as a guard?
Zach Martin mold.
20, Malik McDowell. He could be higher, Dane.
No, he's
talent. He would be higher.
I wrote in my write up on him. He's a top 5 talent in this class. There's no doubt in my mind. But I think there's some effort issues. I've heard he didn't interview very well at the combine. There's some things to work through there. Could he end up proving me wrong when I have him at number 20 on my board? Absolutely. But that's where I feel comfortable with him at this point.
John Ross at number 21, who does not own an island but does have a Nike endorsement. Tack McKinley, 22. Taco Charlton, 23. I have him at 123.
Is
Zach,
4.940 didn't impress you?
The what?
The 4.940 from Taco didn't
Yeah,
impress you?
about what I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mel Kiper told me he was going to run a 4.3 and just get all the sacks.
Don't be surprised when he goes top 15.
I know, and I'm excited about that.
Pushes better players down.
Yeah, push the good players down. Somebody take the dude who looks the part. Zach Cunningham, the linebacker from Vanderbilt, who I feel like we've stopped talking about because Reuben Foster's kind of sitting at the top, and then Hassan Reddick has kind of moved up, and my guy Duke Riley's awesome.
I don't think Cunningham got enough credit for what he did at the Combine. He was top 5 in a lot of linebacker categories, 4.6, 7.40. His 3-cone and short shuttle were good as vert. So I don't think Cunningham's kind of quietly had a very nice showing in Indy.
Curtis Samuel, you have it number 25, and you listed him as running back. Why did they make him work out at wide receiver at the Combine? That's the wrong position.
Yeah, it really is. Same thing with Peppers and him working out with the linebackers. And I don't know. I mean, this guy
he's a running back.
He averaged almost 8 yards a carry at Ohio State. I don't know why you'd want to. And again, we want to box him into this group, wide receiver, running back. He's both. But I think for my rankings, for that standpoint, I'm going to keep my running back.
Evan Ingram at number 26 from Ole Miss. You can list him at tight end if you want, but he really played receiver.
Yeah, he's a big
much
slot.
More.
Can you project him to the NFL? Do you really see him lining up in line for a team? No. I mean, that's not
just do him like you do Jordan Reed. You just line him up in the slot, and then you look across from him and say, who are they going to try to cover that guy with?
Right.
Good luck. Number 27 and 28, Deshaun Kaiser and Deshaun Watson. Here's Dane again, terrified to put his name on one. He's going to put them right next to each other.
No, my quarterback rankings haven't changed. Trubisky 1, Kaiser 2, Watson 3, and then Mahomes 4. But Kaiser did move down a little bit, and Watson moved up, just a few spots. They are a lot closer than I initially had them. Now, by end of April, could Watson leapfrog Kaiser for me? Sure, I think it's possible. That's how impressive Watson was at the Combine, and that's how not impressive Kaiser was. So they're very, very close for me. It's probably a better chance both of them are off the board at this point, though.
Charles Harris, the defensive end from Missouri, number 29. He had a terrible Combine. See that?
He did okay in the positional drills, though. But yeah,
that's the weird part. Like everything that you'll time,
right? The testing
or measure, you were like, no. But then he did just moving around, and you're like, yeah, that's the guy I know.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing with the stopwatch.
Matches the tape.
Number 30 and 31, we got some corners here. Marlon Humphrey and Fabian Moreau from UCLA, and that's different because somebody's missing. I'm sure we'll find him later.
Unfortunately,
where'd our guy go? Why did he run a 4.6? Why did Tease Tabor decide to run a 4.6?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Sidney Jones.
Oh, Sidney Jones.
Both of them.
Well, Tease, don't pretend Tease wasn't ahead of these guys earlier.
He was.
His 40 got you, huh?
Well, more than that. We'll get to him.
Okay, so
by the way, Marlon Humphrey wasn't John Ross. It wasn't one of these other guys. Marlon Humphrey had the best 20-yard split at the Combine at 2.40. So take that for what it's worth.
So from 20 to 40, John Ross is going to smoke him.
Yep, basically.
Okay.
But which kind of shows on tape. He gave a lot of big plays down the field.
The time it takes to get to a screen, though, he's going to get there, and he will break you in half.
Right.
So have fun with that. Moreau is he's becoming one of everybody's favorites. I know he's a Broadus favorite. He's a you favorite. He's a me favorite. And for me, every time somebody says the name Fabian Moreau at UCLA, it's like, where would you take him? And I'm like, 28 might be okay. For me, it's just I've never seen a guy cover a drag route like he does. You run pick-play drag routes, and he's in your hip pocket. The dude, just the quickness and the speed are amazing.
And the 4.35 and the 40, that definitely matches. He's not a perfect prospect, still learning how to play the position, really. But with that speed and that skill, he's over 6 foot. Give me that guy on my team any day.
Budda Baker, number 32, the safety from Washington, who's tiny, but he has no idea that he's tiny, and he will hit you anyway. 33, my guy T.J. Watt, who I've been playing on Twitter and telling people I'm not afraid to play him at right defensive end in Dallas. So
hand on the ground?
Take that. I'm not afraid to.
Okay.
I mean, if we have a play where we have a Sam linebacker, then he'll stand up and somebody else will go down. But when the Sam leaves, the other guy's leaving, not TJ. TJ's going down there. No problem.
6'4", 252. It's not impossible. He's got the length to do it. I don't hate the idea.
Number 34, this is your guy, Chad Hansen.
I like him more than most people, and I'm okay with that.
Number 35, this is my guy.
Your guy.
This is my guy, Jabril Peppers. If you drop him another 20, 30 spots, you'll have him. You'll be right on.
Oh, come on.
You'll be right on.
Second round, you're not going to take a flyer on him?
At 60? I'm a Cowboy here. I'm a Cowboy. So at 60, maybe. I could use a safety. Well, you know what? I could use a running back. That's what he really is. I could use a second running back.
Some teams agree with you.
They should. Number 36, Garrett Bowles, who is 25 years old and cannot move anyone. Good athlete, though.
He's a terrific athlete.
Number 37, there he is. Tease, Mr. Tabor. You talked to him since he ran that 40?
Well, I did talk to teams who interviewed him, and that didn't go as well as you would hope.
Oh, no.
He's a cocky, brash guy, and unfortunately, he doesn't always know how to turn that off the field, and it's just a turnoff for some of these teams. So
Deion was cocky.
Yeah.
Bring me all the cocky guys if they're really good.
It's something where not every team is going to have him on the board, but teams that do he's just not going to be for everybody, especially when you go out and run a 4.6. And I don't, can you play him in off coverage? Can you trust him in press? There's just a lot of questions with him, but I did move him down a little bit. I still think he's worthy of, somewhere in the top 40, but I don't love him as much as I did. I thought I would 2 months ago.
Carl Lawson, the edge player from Auburn, who I'm a really big fan of, despite his 3-cone time. I'm not going to worry about that because he doesn't worry about that. Jordan Lewis, the corner from Michigan. Tre'Davious White, the corner from LSU, 39 and 40. Jared Davis, the linebacker from Florida. How do you say the defensive end from Ohio's name?
Terrell Basham.
Basham. That should move him up 10 spots. His name is Basham. 43, about 20 spots too low. My guy Duke Riley.
At the Deion Jones path.
Garyon Conley, 44 from Ohio State. Here come all the corners.
Yeah.
We just had a few, and now it's Garyon Conley, Ohio State. Kevin King, Washington. And we're going to name a whole bunch more as we go down. Like, if you need, I said on the radio the other day, maybe Friday, Jerry does sometimes let me pick for the Cowboys.
Occasionally.
If he lets me pick in the third round, I'll pick him a starting corner. Like, there's that many.
Yeah.
Right? You pick in the third round.
Fourth round.
And fourth round, you think NFL starter.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Because especially, like, when you look at the first round this year, how many corners are going to go in the first round? 2? Maybe 3?
Yeah, I guess.
And I think it's especially...
There's about 15 that I love.
Right. But these guys are going to get pushed down because teams know they can get that corner in the second, third, fourth round. So they're going to take the pass rusher. They're going to take the offensive tackle. They're going to take the position where it might not be as deep in the first round, and that's going to push these corners down even more. And we're going to see a run on them at some point in the second, third round, but we're still going to see guys creep into that fourth round, still going to be able to get starters. I mean, Anthony Brown was... a 6th-rounder?
That's the NFL's fault. We told him he was a 3rd rounder.
Yeah.
They were supposed to pick him earlier.
That was confusing.
Idiots. Come on, NFL. 46, Pat Mahomes. Mahomies.
He's got a lot of fans.
Doesn't he?
And I don't know. I get it. He's a fun watch, but I don't think people realize how just raw this guy is. Like, I mean, he's going to... When you think about where he could be 2 to 3 years from now, yeah, I get excited too. But realistically, I mean, that's a big projection, and he's not going to help you in year one. I don't know. I see a little bit more of a projection than I think some people do.
47, Ardarius Stewart, wide receiver, Bama, who didn't really have a chance to be good this year because his quarterback couldn't throw. 48, Marcus Williams, the free safety from Utah. 49, Pat from Ohio State. Elfline? Elfline. Man, that's an awesome name, too. Pat from Ohio State. 50, Josh Jones, free safety, NC State. Blew up the combine.
He did. But he was, his tape matches. What he did this year, he moved to free safety from Strong this year. Spent most of his time in the boundary. He had a great junior season.
Holy crap, you hate all these guys. I got to get down to 59 to 66. I like all of them, and you hate them all.
That's just this draft.
51, Tyus Bowser from Houston. 52, Tim Williams. Where would he be in your edge rankings if he didn't smoke a ton of pot and interviewed well?
Teens, probably.
Okay.
I still have questions about him against the run. I think he's more of a situational pass rusher right now. But still, if he can get you double-digit sacks as a situational pass rusher, that's worth somewhere in the mid-first round. But with the off-field stuff, just the character concerns, all the baggage, yeah, he gets pushed down.
53, Cam Robinson, tackle, Bama. He'll go higher than that, of course, because he's an offensive tackle, and he played at Alabama.
Agree.
54, Dan Feeney, Indiana, guard, my guy. I'm a Feeney guy.
Biggest neck at the combine.
That's my guy, Feeney.
Yeah?
He's my top lineman.
Oh.
Dan effing Feeney is what I call him.
Not top guard, top lineman.
Well, the tackles are bad.
Okay.
So there's that. It's like
interesting.
Well, everybody's talking about Garrett Bowles or Cam Robinson.
I've got to tackle
my
my top 10.
Oh, Ramchick.
Yeah.
I do like him.
Coming off the hip.
I have him
surgery.
and Feeney both as 2s, so now I got to stack them up. Maybe Ramchick wins because he's a tackle, and that's more important. Man, you love this dude. Adam Shaheen, tight end, Ashland.
I hated keeping him out of the top 50.
Tape looks like it was done in one of our backyards.
Yeah, it does. You watch the tape, and there's pickup trucks right behind the end zone.
Trust the tape, Varsity Blues.
Exactly. But hey, he went to the combine at 278 pounds and ran in the 4.7s. That's not easy to do.
56, Deion Dawkins, guard, Temple. Man, he hurts people.
He does.
57, nope, you read it.
Larry Ogunjobi from Charlotte.
Ogunjobi. 58. Now, this is where my guys start. This is where you're a hater. This is where all my guys are. 58, Caleb Brantley, the
my
defensive
issue with
tackle
Brantley
from Florida.
Is just the effort. And he looked me straight in the eye at the combine and said, I know I have to get better with my effort.
He's going to try harder.
Yeah.
He's going to try harder.
Then why didn't he try harder before?
Because it's time now.
Okay, good on him for
free,
acknowledging that he didn't always give 100%. Give a crap, but to me, that's something that worries the heck out of me. That all of a sudden, when you're getting paid, that it's just going to turn on and he's going to be this every down terror that I think he could be, but I worry about him. I'm not sure I trust him.
Okay, now this is where the run of all my guys starts, where you are just straight hating. Dane,
we're still in the second round.
59, Cordrea Tankersley, Clemson, corner, awesome. 59.
4.40, not a bad time.
59. 60. Now, you talk about a guy that some people love. Alvin Kamara at number 60, the running back from Tennessee, who I like. I'd probably take McCaffrey over him, but I hear so many people like, NFL guy told me he's top running back. What?
I don't.
I like him. Calm down.
He's not a proven every down guy. He fumbles way too much. I'm with you. I like him a lot. I think, especially in the passing game, what he can do as a receiver. He can return kicks, but there are plenty of questions with this guy.
61, Chris Godwin, wide receiver, Penn State. That 4.42 I thought really helped him.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking 4.56.
Yeah.
And then it was 4.42.
Because he doesn't play like a 4.42 athlete.
He's about to start, though. He just had to show you. Now he's about to do it.
Yeah.
My other guy, Carlos Henderson, wide receiver, Louisiana Tech, 62. I'm going to tell him you said that. Des King, Iowa, 63.
Okay, we talk about Hassan Reddick and how much it helped him at the Senior Bowl.
I have King as a 2 or 3-2. I don't know where he's going to play.
Okay. Well, that's the thing with King.
I just want to yell at you because I love him.
If at the Senior Bowl you get a chance to see him play safety, or you get a chance, it's just a harder projection. How many times do we see corners make that safety conversion and turn out to be, quality NFL starters? It just doesn't happen as much as we want it to.
It just happens sometimes when people get really old and they're like 36 and they're like, hey, I'm going to move.
So I want to believe that he can do it.
22 or 23 or whatever.
But yeah, if I'm going to take a chance on that, it's going to be late second, early third.
Now, at 64 and 65, you have 2 of the top 30 players in this draft. Derek Rivers from Youngstown State, the pass rusher, and Joe Mixon, the second best player in this draft from Oklahoma at 65. Explain yourself, please.
Well, Mixon.
You can start with Rivers if you'd like. We already talked about Mixon.
Yeah, Mixon's easy. We know why. But with Rivers, terrific pass rusher. I have some questions versus the run. Just overall play strength. I think he can be a quality NFL rusher. I'm not convinced he's going to be, that double-digit sack guy. I like him, obviously. I have him in the 60s. I think he's somewhere in that late second, early third. I just don't like him as much as you do.
Hater. Let's see here. Taylor Moton, the offensive tackle from Western Michigan.
Who I think should be in the Cowboys' plans in the second round. Possibly.
Yeah, I'll take him. You
can't trust Chaz Green at right tackle.
You think if Chaz Green doesn't fall over and hurt himself, that Moton could take his job in training camp?
I think Chaz Green has the talent to be a starter in the NFL. I just can't rely on him.
Let's see, Jordan Willis, who had an awesome combine at Kansas State to the end.
I'm going to struggle with him more than some of these other guys because he was outstanding with his testing numbers. I just don't always see it on film. Now, was he outstanding on film? Yes, but he does show some limitations. I'm going to stick with the film on this one. I like him, but I have him at 67.
Ryan Anderson, Bama, 68. Adoree Jackson, USC corner, 69. Think about putting him on offense. Number 70, Raekwon McMillan, the linebacker from Ohio State. 71 and 72 are receivers, Zay Jones and D.D. Westbrook. And we have been here for over 41 minutes, Dane. We got to wrap this up. Where is this post? Is it already posted? Is it about to be posted?
I submitted it to the desk, so it should be posted here in the next 2 days, early this week.
Where do people go?
You find it on CBSSports.com or just follow me on Twitter at DP Brugler. I'll be tweeting out the link. The guy I want to point out, Sidney Jones at 84. I don't know where to put him. I mean, look, the Achilles injury, as long as the surgery goes okay and the rehab goes okay, he's going to have to take a red shirt as a rookie in the NFL. So where do you take a guy like that who is viewed as a late
92?
Yeah, I have him at 84. I think he's going to fall 2 rounds, be somewhere in the third, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. And then also, Obi Melifonwu, the safety from Connecticut, he's going to go a lot higher than I have him. I have an 88 overall. Good chance he sneaks into that first round, but I'm trusting the tape on that one. Obi Melifonwu is a third-round player.
All right, that'll do it for this week's Trust the Tape. You can get us on iTunes, of course. Well, if you're listening, you already know where you found it, but it's on iTunes, Trust the Tape. Play.it/Trust the Tape, and we sure would appreciate a 5-star review and a comment because then people will look at it and be like, holy cow.